A thrilling late race dash to the line gave Steven Spies his first win of the season last week. While it has not changed the championship picture much, it has opened the doors in which drivers have finally figured out how to fight back against Proudfoot's dominance. With today's race being at one of iRacing's newest dirt tracks, will they be able to hold him back again? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the Bootleg Racing League's Dirt Street Stock Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. From humble beginnings to becoming one of the premier short tracks in America, Cedar Lake certainly has had a fairy tale-like history. Let's head to our track guide to learn more.
Welcome to Cedar Lake Speedway. This jewel of a racetrack, nestled between the Northwoods of Wisconsin and the metropolis of Minneapolis, has made a mark in its nearly 65 years of operations. At 3/8 of a mile, the action here is tight and packed. Those 12 degrees of banking in the corners helps lead to a variety of lines, but the straights are short enough that in some high-powered cars, you are never really going straight. As part of NASCAR's Home Tracks initiative, the weekly racing list here is long and pulls in great car counts. The clay surface getting a workout from the late models, pro stocks, sprint cars of the winged and non-winged varieties, modifieds, and of course, your general street stocks. Some big series come through here too. Want a dirt track race to win $50,000 at? Well, the World of Outlaws late models headline the USA Nationals here. You can get that kind of payout. And for good measure, the World of Outlaws sprint cars make regular stops here also. Now it's time to put on the helmet and strap in as 10,000 fans are ready to see some dirt track racing in northern Wisconsin.
Well, normally Wisconsin in the middle of February is not the place you'd want to be, but thankfully we're operating in the sim world here, DJ. So what's it going to be like with street stocks out here?
Well, Joe, as always seems to be the case, this is all going to be about reading this track. As you talked about at the top and was mentioned in the guide, there are multiple lanes you can run here, courtesy of the progressive banking that goes through these corners, starting down at 6 degree on the very inside and working its way up to 16. So it's going to be down to these drivers to figure out where they can get the momentum. I don't anticipate a lot of true low line running around here, as these corners are a little bit too long to really get a nice tight bite through that corner, but definitely watch for some slider lines to start developing later in the race. But as the track starts to rubber in a little bit and we see that cushion move up the track, I think you're going to see multiple lines start to develop. Not going to be a whole lot of running necessarily all the way up against the wall, but a mid to low, middle, or mid to high line could start to come in as well. The other thing that these street stocks are going to keep in mind is we heard it a little bit mentioned last week by I believe Brandon Proudfoot, is you've got to watch that inside line. Anybody that does try to go down for it, those little tires that are in there, they're very hard to see, but if you get your left front wheel over them, they will send you skyward.
All right, well, let's take a look at the championship here. As I mentioned, it's not terribly close, 89 points between Shepard and Proudfoot, but they could at least perchance lower it before the season is over. If anything, the fights that we need to watch out for are between Shepard and Davis, and then Spies is a ways ahead of Northcutt. He could maybe try and run down those in front of him. I did hear from Davis before the race saying that he does intend to point race for the rest of the season, rather. So he is looking out and trying to see if he can grab that second position. What about today's race details here, DJ?
Well, this is the 8th of 11 rounds in the BRL Dirt Street Stock Series. We are running the classic iRacing Dirt Street Stocks. We are in a heat race format tonight, so how that is going to work is we are in the middle of a 20-minute qualifying session that will be followed by, or a 20-minute practice session, rather, followed by qualifying. At that point, that will set the field for heat races. In those heat races, the top 3 drivers in each heat will advance to the A main. All other drivers will be relegated to the B main. A maximum of 24 drivers can make that feature race. So as we're sitting at about 16 entries right now, everybody will make it in, and that B main is just going to be determining qualifying. When we do get to the feature, it's going to be a 40-lap feature race, and that is the only time you are going to see yellows thrown during the course of tonight's events. And as always, we are running a fixed setup here tonight, so it is all down to driver's skill, Joe.
Indeed, and the one thing that this wide track with a variety of lines will do, it means that those who are canny and do have those skills can manage to possibly sneak a win away from Brandon Proudfoot, who won the first 5 races in a row effectively. Billy Northcutt is currently our fastest runner here in the warm-up that we are in the midst of. We're watching from Chris Davis currently, and is right now 5th on the timing sheets. Shepard is a ways below, but you can't give too much weight to these warm-up times. It'll more come down to what you see in the qualifying and then, of course, in the heat races. That'll really reveal who is good out there. The sun going down here currently, and nice cool track temperatures for the drivers to retain those that moisture in the track. There you can see it on screen. A little bit of wind as well. I'm already seeing something of a line getting rubbered in, especially like you were talking about earlier. That middle line seems to be quite popular currently.
It does, and what that's actually going to do is it may help a few drivers to run a little bit lower. If that middle line gets really, really slick, what it'll allow them to do is use that left front tire to really bite down on some moisture on the low line and then just overspin the rear tires in that slick stuff, and that'll really help to sort of pivot them around the corner, and that may help to run a little bit of a low line a little bit faster.
We've got a few more minutes left here, about 5 minutes left in our warm-up. This is one of those interesting tracks as well, since it's a newer dirt track. They've relegated the pits to the outside like they do in real life, so you'll see them enter and exit in that fashion as we ride on board with the 13 of Bobby Hayes. Ooh, both he and the 55 of Speeds just clipping the outside wall on the entry there.
Yeah, it gets very tricky when you try to run that super, super high line. It's very easy to get up into that wall, especially with as much loose dirt as we see up there right now. Getting the car to really bite and keep it off the wall can be quite tricky, even with that progressive banking. But here in practice, there are no incident limits or anything like that, so I think it's very much a case of these drivers just testing their limits. There you see Steven Spees catching a little bit of those lower tires. That is something that we've got to watch out for.
Absolutely. Hopped on board here with, this is the 55 of Spees running all the way down low. Now, what I found interesting is, as opposed to some of the tracks that have tires down on the inside, these ones seem to, well, you said that it will bump the car upwards, but it looks like the cars can actually handle it somewhat, just without completely destroying it or completely turning it around. So the unfortunate thing is that from what we watched in the midget races, as I was watching those before, the couple drivers that did clip them, it sent them all the way into the grass, which isn't necessarily where you want to be.
Right, it's instead of, let's say, a rocket launch like you'd get on some of the other tracks where you have those big old monster truck tires, think of this as a little bit more of like a trampoline. It just sort of bounces the front of the car. There's a lot of good give in these suspensions, and so what it'll do is you ride over that, it causes the car to rebound, and then as the car tries to find grip, the minute all 4 tires return to any sort of surface, it will just go straight ahead. And the way you've got to slide these dirt cars through the corner, 9 times out of 10, when it finds that grip, it's going to be pointing right into the infield, and that's where the car's going to go.
16 drivers taking part in today's event. So it should be a decently full field out there around this 0.4 of a mile circuit. And they are putting a lot of laps out there on a variety of lines. I'm not sure there will be much left that is fresh on the circuit by the time they get the first green flag, which will be after the sun completely goes down. We're getting the last remnants now. You can see with the orange sky glowing in the background, and the lights now flickering on here in Wisconsin. Also see Chris Davis there in the 7, just working his way behind these guys. Love this side-by-side racing we're getting between Shepard and Spies. Definitely getting some practice in here for this.
Most certainly, and that's going to really come into play. Drivers having knowledge of what it's like to run around. You see Spies being able to take the advantage on the inside line. Now, as they come around here, something else to keep in mind is where the position of that start-finish line is. As we watch J.R. Shepard here, you can see it is just about dead middle down that main straightaway. So what that'll mean is, as we get into the last laps of either heats or features, drivers are going to keep that in mind. They're going to have a little bit of momentum to be able to take off the corner, but it's not one of those things where the start-finish line is almost down by the start of turn 1 like it is at Lernerville, that it's going to be a pretty equidistant march, and I think you can maybe get a win by running high or low.
We watch Chris Davis from off the right side of the car here. Certainly enjoying seeing everybody do what they can to get some time on the track so that we have at least something to watch instead of just sitting in the pits. Of course, often trying to preserve the circuit can leave it a little bit boring during the warm-up session. Now we look at Dylan Immig in the number 12 machine, off and around, coming down these quite short straights, but these aren't terribly high-powered cars, so they do get a little bit of time to try and get them spooled up.
Indeed, Joe. As we've said before, these cars have one of, if not the worst, power-to-weight ratio on the iRacing service. So momentum is key. That's why you see a lot of drivers experimenting with this high line. They're able to carry more speed through the corner, even though it is a longer distance from point A to point B. So you see Dylan here riding that high line, trying to get that left side tire down into the good grip there and let the rear tires just kind of float through the gray. But that's going to wrap up our practice session as we're ready to go qualifying.
Indeed. So drivers now working their way out and onto the track by themselves, of course. Looks like Bobby Rafferty going to be one of our first out there right now in the 77.
And remember, Bobby Rafferty is last season's champion of this BRL Dirt Street Stock Series, taking a little bit of a break. We heard from him a couple of weeks ago that he was really looking forward to this race. So that is Rafferty there in the 77 getting spooled up, and this is going to be his first flying lap. Sets it in at a 16.676, but he's going to call it off. I think he brushed the wall there.
He did indeed. As we wait for rest of them to come through, watching Immig now, currently sitting in third after 2 laps with a 16.9. Looks like Hetherington has got a lap in. Bobby Hayes up to the top. Now this isn't expected.
No, that's a great run for Bobby, but there goes Billy Northcutt to the top. Always a strong qualifier, Billy is. There goes Justin Morton putting in a 17 dead. That's not a great time for Justin. Currently gets him 8th. Here comes Northcutt again, unable to improve on his provisional pole.
All right, so Northcutt able to get ahead, but we're waiting for Brandon Proudfoot as well in that 22. We see the 56 of Robbie Robinson. He goes up to 6 as Billy Northcutt goes even quicker that time by a 16.6.
That is a great lap for Billy Northcutt, and it looks like Brandon Proudfoot, he is on track, so we'll be able to see those times here shortly. As here comes Chris Davis to the line, crossing over. He's going to be able to improve, not at all there. Jason Best now, the next one.
And Proudfoot takes the pole away. 16.626 for that one. As we've only got a handful of laps left for most of the drivers, but Proudfoot on his first time around goes fastest. Second one, not going to repeat that feat. A 17.1 is about half a second off, but I think he's experimenting at this point. Zagala on screen in the 81. A 16.7 was his quickest, and that was his 4th lap.
Yeah, there he goes. Here comes JR Shepard. JR putting in a 16.697. That'll put him in fourth for right now. As right now that top five, Proudfoot, Northcutt, Spees, Shepard, and Rafferty. Very surprisingly slow time for Rafferty, but we've seen him be able to come up through the field. Shepard here going for a better lap, not able to improve. Justin Morton still back in 12th.
And that was his last lap there. So the 9 with a 16.845 has got a ways to go. We're looking at Bobby Hayes once again. He was briefly on the pole. This time around, looks like he's not going to have that one count. Must have brushed the wall or maybe dipped it a little bit too far down and cut across the grass a little bit. Let's see if this fourth lap holds anything for the 13. As it comes down to the line. Nope, it is a 16.856. It's about half a tenth off of his best.
Yeah, so that's not going to cut it for him. A little bit heartbreaking, but some pretty good close times here. Our top four, our top five even, separated by less than a tenth of a second. That's Proudfoot, Northcutt, Spees, Shepard, and Rafferty. So this is going to be a close run here, I think, Joe.
Absolutely, and that is the last of our qualifiers with about a minute to spare. The laps don't take too long around here. Just over a quarter of a minute to get around this place, at least at pace. Let's hope we don't see too much in the way of cautions throughout this evening so that we can keep things moving along. And they will, of course, use these to populate our heats. So the qualifying will mean something in terms of where it places you for that. But for the future, their performance essentially starts now.
Yeah, and one of the things that would be interesting to check out here is to remember that these drivers who start on this on pole for the heats or the A mains, or any of the mains, they get lane choice. We think that that momentum line is going to be the best way to go around here, but we'll have to see what they choose. We've seen some drivers start to experiment, so definitely something to keep an eye on.
There we go. Last few seconds done. So our first heat populates. 16 cars here, so we should see 4 heats today. First one is going to be Brandon Proudfoot starting on the top with JR Shepard in P2, and John Wilson starts in third.
In fourth is going to be Robbie Robinson, followed by Todd Hetherington, and Dylan Emig is going to line up in sixth.
Correction, it's going to be 3 heats today that will decide who automatically goes onto the feature and who has to work for their spot in the consolation race. Proudfoot starting on the inside once again. I'm trying to think of the last time, because I'm pretty sure it has happened this season. When was the last time Proudfoot did not win his heat race? Because that's another area he's been fairly dominant, and it looks like he's choosing the outside for his start.
All right, so Brandon clearly thinks that that outside momentum is going to be the way to take it. Joe, I think it was somewhere back, maybe our viewers can correct us, but I'm feeling like round 3 or 4. It seems like he had a bad heat race.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well, that someone was quite quick on him. In fact, I want to say that it was Chris Davis, even potentially, that had something for him. I know Billy Northcutt has certainly given him problems here and there. All right. Next time by, the truck is going to pull away and release the field. Interestingly, with the pit entry being after the start-finish line, yeah, he's going to hurry up and hustle out. And that means green flag waves just as he exits as the 22 is off. Brown and Proudfoot immediately taking to the high line as we expected. It served him well. He's ahead of JR Shepard. It is a battle for fourth behind them as those three are 3 wide.
Ooh, Robbie Robinson got off to a very, very rough start, but that's Hetherington and Amick really starting to hassle him there in the back. But up front, JR Shepard doing a good job to stay up with Brandon Proudfoot. A little bit of overcorrection there from Proudfoot. He's got a car out alongside to Shepard, but he's got a check up coming into 2.
He almost got it in there, but Shepard's got to get it off the corner as well. Passing on dirt, always a tricky proposition. These 3 will all automatically advance, so they don't want to mess around too much. They've got a clear gap back to 4th, which right now is Todd Hetherington. John Wilson is the last of those who will automatically be in the feature if they stay as is.
John's doing a really good job keeping up with our frontrunners here, J.R. Shepard and Brandon Proudfoot, keeping this nice and competitive. But Proudfoot running that high line, you see him setting the fastest lap of this heat. He is starting to run away. Now switches down to a slider line, going low too high as he brings it down here with 2 laps to go.
Proudfoot's just riding that rim. The 22 doesn't look phased after those couple scares in the early laps. Now he checks down low. Must have thought he was clear enough. It's okay to try and test that out, see what it holds for him. Let's see if he holds for that line. Nope. It's going to go right back up to the top for Brandon Proudfoot on the final lap. A bit of a combination run around, as he does like that low line through 3 and 4, but regardless, he's going to take the win here in the first heat with Shepard behind him and Wilson in third. Looks like Hetherington, Robinson, and Imig are the 3 that will have to go to the consolation race.
Well, Joe, that was another dominant performance from Brandon Proudfoot. But what I think is interesting is, especially at the start of that race, we saw J.R. Shepard get close, have to back off, and then that gap stabilized. So it looks like that they're about even on pace, even if Shepard wasn't able to catch him over the course.
We've got our next set of cars gridding up. Billy Northcutt is starting on the pole of this one, with Bobby Rafferty starting in second, and then it's Joe Segala in third.
Brennan Myers is going to line up fourth, followed by Chris Davis back in fifth.
All right. Remember, Davis is fighting for second in the championship. He currently sits in third, so him gridding up at the very last of his heat is not looking good for him. It's going to be a tough time trying to overtake 2 cars to advance automatically to the feature and have that better starting position. See them once again swapping sides. So Northcutt, much like we saw with Proudfoot, electing to take the high side.
Well, Joe, if I'm Billy Northcutt, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He saw the lead that Brandon Proudfoot was able to pull, and so I think Billy just wants to do that same thing, choosing to start out on the high line here for Heat 2.
As the truck now accelerates away, Northcutt waiting for the green flag, and it's out. It's a decent jump, but it looks like Rafferty has a good shot at things. Keeps the 77 way down low, going to opposite ends as the field splits up and then comes back together down the straight. It's pretty much even between top and bottom. Rafferty and Northcutt are not giving up any inches here.
No, they're not, but you saw behind them there, that was Brennan Myers hitting the wall a little bit. Now it looks like there's a little bit of an advantage to Bobby Rafferty coming off of turn 2. Rafferty throws a slider. Here comes Northcutt trying for the over-under.
He gets to the inside, but can he get this spot back? Rafferty running way up high, and he's going to have it thrown right back at him. The slider for Rafferty is going to be easily dodged as Northcutt has to pull it once again. And he's relegated down to second place. He still tries to take an opposite line behind them. Impressively, Chris Davis already up into third.
And that was an absolutely perfectly thrown slide job from Bobby Rafferty on that last lap, coming through 3 and 4. Just stalled the car out right at the high point. It forced Billy Northcutt to back off ever so slightly, and he could not make that crossover move work. But as you said, Joe, Chris Davis coming on like a full train with a head of steam, going down here, trying to make this a battle for first.
We get the white flag this time by Bobby Rafferty, looking to finish up at the top to give himself a better starting position and be alongside his teammate. It's looking good so far, unless he has a very poor exit off the final corner. He does not. The 77 will win heat number 2. Northcutt follows him home in second, and Chris Davis manages to get third. It looks like it's going to be Segala and Myers finishing in 4th and 5th.
Well, Joe, that was exactly what Chris Davis needed to do to keep those championship hopes alive, really working it hard. And so I think he's going to be one to watch in the A main here. He's clearly got a fast car, and his qualifying just didn't reflect that.
Sometimes you just have a bad day, it seems, when you're out on the track trying to put a fast lap in. Steven Spies didn't have that issue, as he is going to start on the pole with Jason Best in second and Bobby Hayes starting third.
Justin Morton will be lining up in 4th, followed by Todd Liston bringing up the back of the field in 5th.
Already off on our pace laps, the last couple here of our 16 that are taking part today. And up at the front of them, Spees has not swapped around. Spees is going to try the bottom line. This is interesting.
It is, and we've seen both that high and low line work into good effect, so clearly Steven wants to go low. We've heard him say he doesn't really like to ride on the high side a whole lot, doesn't like the wall ride. He kind of tracks where he can do that, always prefers the inside, so this may just be a personal choice for Steven.
Let's see if it works out. To his outside, Jason Best in the red and black 47. There goes Spees. That looks like a good jump to me. And he's going to work the middle line. Interesting. As behind him, contact side to side between Best and Bobby Hayes. That's going to allow the 87 of Liston to sneak into second place. Hayes is now the last car to advance, although he looks to see if he can get to the inside of the 87, try and take second place away. Pulls a slide job. I don't think it's going to stick, though. It looks like Liston is going to try and come back at him.
He is, and that's Justin Morton down on that super low line trying to make that work in as well. But here comes Hayes on the top line, a little bit more momentum. I think Liston still had the lead at the line, but there's some very, very good speed for Bobby Hayes on that top side. Car straightens out a little bit, though, and that's going to cost him the position. So Todd Liston now in full control. Justin Morton down low, just bouncing into those tires.
And behind him, let's not forget about poor Jason Best starting on the front row and being relegated to 5th. He might have to race his way back into the feature here pretty soon. And they spread out 3 wide among them at the back of the field. Still the last to advance currently is Bobby Hayes in the 13. Huge advantage for Spees. At 55 is up ahead by a full second now.
Yeah, Justin Morton really falling off the pace, running that low line down there, as it looks like Jason Best now is going to be able to get by him into 4th. So Best trying to claw his way back up, get by Bobby Hayes to secure that position. But they've got the white flag, so here we go.
Spees heading back down to the bottom once again. He does like that low line, and it's going to serve him well to a victory here in heat number 3. Liston takes 2nd, and Hayes takes 3rd. Best and Morton will now be taking part in the Consolation Race, which happens now. And as we go through our grid for that one, it'll be Todd Hetherington who starts at the top of this field. Then it'll be Joe Segala in 2nd, Jason Best starting 3rd.
Robbie Robinson will be starting on the outside of row 2 in 4th, followed by Brendan Myers and Justin Morton in 5th and 6th, respectively. And then bringing up the back of this B main feature will be Dylan Amick.
Remember, all of them will advance to the feature, but it'll determine where they start in that finale. So it is important that they try to get as much up the field as possible here in this thing. And with Hetherington kicking it off, he saw Spees make good use of the bottom side on the start. Will he do similar here himself? It's not, he hasn't gone up high yet, but then he had to catch up to the 81 of Segala. No, it appears he's going to hold low.
All right, interesting. Starting to see some variation in opinion from these drivers, Joe. I said at the top of the broadcast, this is all going to be about reading this track, and clearly these drivers doing their best to do just that.
A few drivers that are definitely slightly out of position. Looking at Jason Best, I'm certain can do a little bit better than that. And Justin Morton, we've seen drive much better than where he sits right now. Waiting for the pace truck to leave, and the green flag waves. Oh, it's not a good start at all for the bottom driver, Hetherington. He tries to slide it up high, and Segala might be around him. In fact, Best is already clearly passed. Myers gets a little bit of a tip on the bottom, almost 3 wide for the lead, but it comes out in favor of Best.
And that was really Hetherington, I think, not pinching up on that high line. That's exactly how Steven Spees was able to get such a good start there, and now he has just fallen like a ton of bricks. Joe Segala carrying that momentum on the high side, trying to track down Jason Best in 1st place. Best run that low line, but the battle for 2nd really heating up here, but as they cross the line, that's a car length advantage for Segala.
In. Oh, he slips up, starts to lose traction. He drifts up high, almost gets into the side of Robbie Robinson there in the 56. They managed to avoid one another. Robinson with a huge head of steam, though, coming down the front stretch, looking to fight back, see if he can sneak into third.
And Hetherington's car off those exits, Joe, it looks like it wants to step out like nobody's business. He is just doing everything he can to try to keep that thing under control. Robbie Robinson has to check up ever so slightly behind Joe Segala there, coming through 3 and 4. That's going to get Hetherington a little bit of a window if he wants it. Tries to the inside, lets the car right up. Still a little bit slippery off the line, but it is advantage Robinson for now.
Biggest advantage goes to Best, who is already half a second ahead of everybody. Ooh, and back there, I believe that was Hetherington once again losing out, down to 5th place at this point, despite starting on the pole to 68. Doesn't look like he's got this thing under control.
And a little bit of contact there in the back. That looks like Dylan Amick and Brennan Myers really checked up Brennan, and he is going to fall well down the order. Going to be running dead last right now. Justin Morton getting up into the wall on the outside in 4th.
Still climbing his way forward. Started this thing in 6th. He's in P4, up 2 positions. That's a slight gain I'm sure he'll be somewhat satisfied with as we watch from on board him. That is the duel between Segala and Robinson. Robinson's going to slap the wall.
Yeah, he's not the only driver in this race to really get friendly with that outside retaining wall, but still trying to hold everybody at bay here. Joe Segala having a very, very good run. Robbie Robinson not really able to catch down on him.
Going to be white flag this time by, and they're starting to get pretty single file. Unfortunately, the best opportunities are whittling away. And up at the front, Jason Best, we felt like he could have done better in that heat race. He's trying to answer to that and say, yes, I could have. Watched this. Victory in the B main here today for the number 47 at Cedar Lake.
And Joe Segala with a very strong run is going to come home in 2nd, followed by Robbie Robinson and Justin Morton to round out those top 4. Amick, Myers, and Hetherington rounding out the rest of the B main finishers.
Okay, from here, we get a little bit of a warm-up. So drivers who haven't been on the track for a while, those that automatically advance, get a chance to try and test out the dirt, see what has changed, because they do not refresh the dirt. They don't wet it down and tear it back up here between these sessions. So what happens on the track stays on the track.
Exactly, Joe, and this kind of becomes a little bit of a catch-22 for a lot of these drivers. You don't want to run the track because you don't want to rubber it inward. You want to keep it as fresh as possible, but at the same time, you need to know what the track is doing, and the only way to do that is to run laps. And so by having this practice session, running these laps, they're going to wear the track down, but they may have a better idea of where it is going to go by the time the feature race rolls around.
Now, speaking of gathering information, I mean, what did you pick up from what we saw in those heats and the Consolation? It looks like a tough call on which is better, the low or the high side.
I think that's right, Joe. I think it really just depends on your driving style and what you like to do. We saw Steven Spies have very, very good success running low, but we know Steven likes to run low. Proudfoot, we've seen him go high and low, run some sliders, doing whatever he can. I really think at this point, multiple lines are open. It's just whatever's going to suit your driving style. And the one thing that I really did take away, though, was the start. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. The reason why Spies was able to make that inside start work was because he pushed the cars up the track, pinched them into a difficult area to get a launch from. In the B main, we did not see that. It was a little bit more lackadaisical, a little bit more, I'm just going to take the line that I want to run. So if somebody does want to run the inside line as a starter, I think the Spies approach, let's call it, is the way to do it.
Interesting stuff as we saw Justin Morton getting into some fun there for a brief moment. Working their way around with about 2.5 more minutes left to try and feel this thing out and figure out how they want to run it, at least at the beginning, because then from there, that track is going to be repeatedly changing and a whole lot quicker than what they're used to, with 16 of them putting the rubber to the road. That will wear it out much faster and much more dramatically, of course. We've hopped on board with Chris Davis here, the number 7. Should be gridding up in 8th position in this feature. See what he can do from there. Right now, that's the one that he wants to try and chase. That is the man that he is looking to try and beat here, J.R. Shepard.
And he does not want to be staring at the back of that blue and green machine. But I think the pass that you just saw JR do, Joe, I feel like that's going to be the best way to try to get something done here. That slider line, that's about the 3rd or 4th time we've seen a very effective slider get thrown. And so that, I think, is going to be the way to get a pass to go.
Now, drivers we need to be wary of. You already mentioned Steven Spies, someone able to pull an alternate line, and we know he can manage to beat Proudfoot on the right day. Let's not forget Rafferty really showed himself to be a mighty force. It wasn't like Spies, and that Spies kind of took advantage of a situation, read it right, and beat him to the line in a short sprint. Rafferty really just outran Proudfoot.
Yeah, he did. And, you know, Rafferty is one of those drivers that just on any given day can put in a mega run. So I think the two of them starting up front is going to be a battle to keep an eye on. It's going to be absolutely incredible to see. And I would not be surprised if we see this break away a little bit into a 2-car race up front if we stay green long enough, as both Rafferty and Proudfoot have proven that they are just absolutely remarkable on whatever dirt track they go to.
Watching the 7 here, who alerted me he has a special license plate, a painted license plate, mind you, that he put on the back. We're trying to get a glance at it, but it looks like it says generate kindness. I do like that. Love the positive vibes there from the number 7 here today. Let's see if he can use those vibes to get himself up to the front or not. 10 seconds left, so hopefully they've all got what they need from this warm-up, because we're about to grid up here in a moment. Almost everybody has actually come out. The only one that I don't see on track is Todd Hetherington. Everybody's at least put 1 lap in the warm-up session otherwise. So checkered flag waves here at Cedar Lake, and the drivers put themselves on the grid. It is going to be Brandon Proudfoot starting on the pole. Bobby Rafferty starts P2 with Steven Spies in 3rd. Then it is J.R. Shepard starting 4th, followed by Billy Northcutt in 5th. Todd Liston starts 6th, and John Wilson in 7th. Rounding out the first half of the field, it'll be Chris Davis in 8th.
Bobby Hayes will be starting off in 9th, followed by Jason Best and Joe Segala in 10th and 11th. Robbie Robinson lining up 12th, followed by Justin Morton in 13th. Dylan Amig going to be lining up 14th, followed by Brendan Myers and Todd Hetherington.
Okay, who is going to wind up in victory lane today? Will we see another victory for Brandon Proudfoot, taking number 6? We're on round 8, so he's missed the last 2, but he's still looked incredibly strong. It's going to be tough, though. His teammate, Bobby Rafferty, to his outside, and he knows how to battle with him. We watched it back at Lernerville, the way he figured out how to get around and then hold him off. This is from onboard Spies just behind them. They're not going to go this time by. They get another pace lap around. I'm sure Spies would certainly love those 2 teammates to start fighting.
I'm sure he would too. And the one thing that I will say in regards to this battle with Brandon Proudfoot and Bobby Rafferty, remember how excited Rafferty was to run this track. He loves this place. So if I'm Brandon Proudfoot, I'm very scared of that fact.
I'm not sure there's much that Proudfoot is scared of. We'll see if he goes shaking in his boots today as the green flag waves. Proudfoot is off, and he goes, well, way up to the high side. Rafferty, compared to his teammate, looks to get the momentum off underneath him, though. Steven Spies gives him a surprise as they go 3 wide for the top spot.
And to the surprise of nobody, Steven Spies running that low line, almost got him behind Rafferty there, but didn't exactly get it to work. J.R. Shepard running the high line behind. That's Northcutt there as well. So now these top 2 going single file. Spies just trying to get a nose forward there, down on the end line, but rides up a little bit into the mid.
A little bit of a shove from behind as Rafferty got into Proudfoot. but no harm, no foul between them. Looks like top three are starting to get single file at this point. Oh, a little slider down to the bottom from Steven Spies. He's going to try and see if he can take it to Rafferty.
He's starting to put some pressure on Bobby there, and it's a good move. Big slider there from Billy Northcutt in the back. I think he knew he didn't have exactly the momentum there to make it work. But Chris Davis also coming up behind while we ride on board with Steven Spies right now. You can see the ebb and the flow through these slicked up corners. Steven Spies really pressuring Bobby Rafferty here.
This is good news for Chris Davis. He's already up to 7th. He's vying for J.R. Shepard's spot, who is in front of him. We're watching Spies and Rafferty and Proudfoot now looking at the lead a little bit as the 77 stuck a nose in. Oh, they're right up against the wall, just scraping the paint off the right rear corner.
They really are, and Steven Spies has got to be very happy with the fact that these drivers are doing that. There we see Brandon Proudfoot going back to that slider line that we saw him doing in the first stages of his heat race, going on that slider line through 3 and 4, running high through 1 and 2. Rafferty dogging his footsteps.
Making it tough for him. We're still early in the race, not even a quarter of the way through, but Proudfoot has been leading every lap thus far. Spies with another one, sending it down low, but he can't chuck it in deep enough, and he is going to have to settle for third once again. Looks like ahead of J.R. Shepard, Billy Northcutt is no longer having to worry about that 98. Instead, he's got to be looking behind his J.R. Shepard because Davis is still challenging him. He knows this is the man that he needs to finish in front of.
Yeah, and Chris is doing a really good job of just hassling J.R. Shepard the entire way across. You can see there just how much counter steering he's got to throw in to run that low line to keep the car straight going off the corner. Davis and Shepard are going to be perfectly parallel coming out of the corner.
We had a big wreck with Jason Best, and he unfortunately had to take a tow. I think he shoved it into the wall, and Todd Hetherington has spun around on the backstretch, and there's our first caution of the day. I think we got enough time for both of the replays, but looks we'll start with, actually we will, yeah, we'll start with Best here. It's a hugely hard hit. Oh, and he had some help, it looks like. There's a shove, but no, it looks like it's going to be the next corner. Another bang into him. Then clips the side of, I think that's Myers. And he's just going to find the tires on the pit entry. So it looks like next time around is where this happens, that the 47 suddenly finds himself actually climbing on top of them.
Yeah, ooh, big hip check there as well. You can see him just trying to get it more contact with Myers, and oh, that's going to wake you up in the morning.
The 68 of Hetherington, and there's the spin right there. Hetherington, I don't think it was involved in that. Oh, actually it was, yeah. Just had a little bit of a tip, and unfortunately it was a chain reaction. Myers then hitting another car to his high side and wound up coming down, and that sent him spinning. Doesn't help Best, who is unfortunately DNF'd. In the meantime, we've got the cars already double file and ready to restart. Proudfoot once again, as you'd expect, picking the high side. We're going to restart on lap 15, DJ.
We are indeed. Steven Spies really trying to get up behind Bobby Rafferty, just trying to make sure he knows he's there. Here comes Proudfoot.
Green flag is out and Proudfoot is on it as they chuck it into the first corner, riding those tires at the bottom. Saw a little bit of a clip for the 77 into those white pieces of rubber as they head back into 3 and 4. Look at them fan out there. A few of them getting tipped. We could have another caution. See a car around. That's the 87 of Liston.
And that indeed is going to be a caution. Looks like Liston got in a little deep, started to spin, and then got a little bit of contact from behind, I think. So this may have happened with Brennan Myers. That may be the start of this. We're going to jump back for a replay.
So he was behind the 87. So I'm not sure if this began with the 25. Yeah, the 87 got hit by the 7. Chris Davis just came down. There you saw it. And unfortunately for Myers, he just found the nose of that 87 right in front of him. Watch from his perspective, because he's certainly got a face full.
He did. It just looked like there was a little bit of check up there from Chris Davis. That caused the 87 to spin. That's Bobby Hayes that got around on there as well. And just a big hit from Brendan Myers. So that is 2 yellow flags in a row that Myers has been a part of. That car definitely having a little bit of damage here tonight.
There's that old adage in racing, cautions breed cautions. So far, it's starting to look like that might come true. Looks like we are double file once again. So everybody working their way up. Didn't see much change there in the top group. It is still Proudfoot ahead of Rafferty, Spees, Northcutt, Shepard, and Davis, your top 6. Rafferty and his teammate are off. This time, Rafferty gets a very good jump. In fact, he was about dead even with him coming down the front stretch, coming off the corner, the 22 of Proudfoot. Oh, he's not going to get a chance to do anything because we got a caution. Robinson in the 56. I see, is this Myers again? No, it's John Wilson.
Oh, John, he was having such a good night. Really, really good runs there in the heat. We jump back to the replay here. So there we can see off of the restart, they're going to come around turn 1 and 2 here. Oh, you see Robinson just dinking into the back of Wilson there, and that sends Wilson and Robinson both spinning.
That was Emig who got into them behind them and basically sent both of them around. The 12 is able to keep going. In fact, we have 15 of our 16 still running. My goodness, the 12 looks more like he's headed to the demo derby.
Certainly does. That thing looks like it's an art piece, not necessarily a race car at this point, but kudos to Dylan for keeping going here. So we're going to line up once again to take another green flag. Proudfoot again taking the outside line. We saw Rafferty have some effect, getting a good restart, but it looked like momentum was shifting back to Brandon Proudfoot on that high side.
Have to wonder, is Rafferty taking this as good news or bad news? Because the more restarts you get, the better he seems to go as the green flag is out and they accelerate away. Wasn't quite as far up the side of the 22 this time. And behind them, J.R. Shepard with a phenomenal start, actually looking at potentially getting into 3rd place as he fights around the outside of Speeds.
He does. He's going for it, trying to make it 3 wide, coming off of turn 4. Barely gets a nose in. Shepard at the line is going to have the advantage over Steven Spees. Now tries to run that middle line, see if he can get anything doing there. They're going to be side by side exiting turn 2. It's a flat out drag race.
Spees still working that low line that he loves as J.R. Shepard up to the high side, tries to carry the momentum as best he can, looking at a potential podium today to help his chances at sealing up 2nd in the championship. Chris Davis has fallen back in that fight, and in fact, the one who has taken advantage the most is Justin Morton, who is currently fighting for 5th position with Northcutt.
Yeah, Morton having an absolutely stellar charge through the field. We kind of briefly mentioned in those heat and B-main races. Interesting to see him that far down, but he's clearly coming alive here in the race. Ooh, big contact with the wall for Bobby Rafferty along the outside.
He's collected it, but he's lost time to his teammate Proudfoot, which means it's going to be that much harder to attack. Still, the fight continues for 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th. They've been side by side, but they're interrupted by a caution. Joe Zagala in the 81.
Get it back turn. Did you see what happened there, Joe?
I was going to say, I think he may have gotten a tip from the 87 coming onto the back stretch. Let's see. There you see Liston in the 87 to his high side. He's just going to drift up, doink, and down into the concrete. No, he manages to hold it up before it slides fully into the barrier.
Well, kudos to that for Joe Segala, and that kind of does bring up a point on these wide tracks. We talk about it more at places like, Kokomo, for example, and just how wide they are. A lot of times when you're running like this, you do not have the massive peripheral awareness that you do normally. You can be running 2-3 wide and never realize it.
Gotta listen to that spotter for sure. We wait for them to pick their side. I think we already know which way that's going to go. One of the cars getting a lap back. That is Hetherington returning to the lead lap. And Oh, Proudfoot on the low side this time.
All right, here's the changeup.
This cost him. Wow, he is off early. Green flag is out. You can see the truck still trying to hustle its way into the pits. Thankfully, it's gone in time. This worked out well for the 22, though. He is clearly off and ahead as J.R. Shepherd not able to make the same charge as last time. Speed's going to deny him.
He is. There was a big checkup off the start from Justin Morton, which would put Chris Davis back into the hands of some of the other drivers behind him. Shepherd trying to get by Steven Spees at this point, but nothing doing there. Rafferty really hassling Brandon Proudfoot in front, both trying to run a little bit of a slider line, seeing who's got the advantage.
Look at the three-wide action behind them. That is Morton on the inside of Northcutt and Davis in the middle in the 7, fighting for 5th position. None of them giving up. They've been a full lap now, 3 wide, just sending it around. And it seems right now to be advantage Northcutt with that momentum.
Yeah, the momentum line still paying high dividends here, but we're down to about 7 laps to go, so it's starting to be now or never time for these drivers. This battle, still the best. Oh my goodness, Rafferty's around!
Did he have help from the 55? The caution does come out. Yeah, I think he did. I think Speed's got a little ambitious into the corner here. Let's watch.
Yeah, Joe, I think that's exactly what happened. You watch here, Speed's just trying to run a slider, doing absolutely anything he can to get that going, and now you're going to see it. So here they go into the quarter, running down on the slider. Speed's tried to check himself up, couldn't really do it. That forces J.R. Shepherd to check up, but Bobby Rafferty sent to the back here.
And Morton slammed into the outside wall. He's actually had to take it a little bit of a repair job. And Rafferty has 2. Rafferty's in pit lane. Interesting. So this means for the first time, Steven Spees will restart on the front row. Will this change the dynamic? They've only got time for 1 more caution. If they get that, then that is race over. See, they're getting ready to restart now. So 4 laps to go when we take the green. Who is going to be able to take victory at round 8 here in Wisconsin? Steven Spees waiting patiently. Pace truck is off. Green flag is out as Brandon Proudfoot is off. He gets pretty far up the side of Steven Spees. Oh, into the wall behind them. I saw Northcutt slapping the right side of that car. Looks like he's able to continue up to 3rd now. J.R. Shepherd continuing to fight. In fact, he's trying to challenge Spees.
He is indeed with Speed, able to hold him off with that momentum along that high line. He's trying to do anything he can do to get up to Brandon Proudfoot, but absolutely nothing doing. Shepherd going to fall back into line, but he's now being hassled by Billy Northcutt there behind, running a little bit of a lower line.
Last lap to make it happen as the white flag waves. Oh, and Spees went way too low. He disappears from the picture. The 22 has nobody to challenge him from here. This means Shepherd is into 2nd and Northcutt into 3rd. But to the line, Brandon Proudfoot takes win number 6 this season. J.R. Shepherd takes a 2nd, and Billy Northcutt rounds out the podium. Great finish to this race. Got slowed up by a bit of cautions, but it definitely picked up there at the end with some fantastic racing. Let's take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Cedar Lake Speedway. Round 8 in the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stock Series went to Brandon Proudfoot once again. 2 races off the top step of the podium does not mean that the man is gone. In fact, he looks like he is still someone to be reckoned with. J.R. Shepard took another second place today as he proves consistency is certainly a virtue. And Billy Northcutt will wind up in third. Chris Davis loses more points to his rival. He'll still take 4th and collect valuable points today, with Brendan Myers going from 15th to 5th. Bobby Hayes was P6 and Todd Liston was 7th, with 8th going to John Wilson.
Robbie Robinson came home in 9th, followed by Joe Segala to round out your top 10. Tom Hetherington was coming home in 11th, and Steven Spees in 12th, having that little error on the last lap. Behind Steven was Justin Morton, who was a lap down, pulling himself into the pits, as was Bobby Rafferty. Dylan Amig and Jason Bess also not seeing the end of the race.
Looks like we've got our winner ready to talk to us, Brandon Proudfoot. Win number 6. It's been a bit since we saw you on the top step, but welcome back. It looks like you've got it once again there, sir.
Yeah, the track was pretty good tonight. I've seen a lot of 2-lane race, and I personally like the top, but I've seen a lot of good racing in my mirror, and to be honest, I kind of wish I was a part of it.
Still, I'm sure you won't turn down another victory. Now, speaking of top versus bottom, we saw you hesitate one time and choose the bottom lane on the restart. What caused the change of mind?
With how wide this track is and the fact that it's a little bit banked, it's almost kind of like Volusia in a way. It's where you have the guy that starts on the bottom, he's got that option to cut all the way to the inside, but the guy that starts up top, he's going to be just a smidge faster right off the bat, and he's also got that banking to help him out. I personally felt I wanted the top the whole night pretty much, and the slider through 3 and 4. So I tried the bottom there on that one restart, but I felt it afflicted my entry to turn 1, and I got a little close to the wall on that restart, so I chose not to go back to it.
I guess you could count this as practice for next week then, since we head off to Volusia. Do you feel like your chances are good, considering you got the win here?
I enjoy Volusia. I think it also can be pretty 2-lane. I personally like running at Volusia here in the lower class cars. In the higher power cars, that track's a lot more difficult than the lower class. When it shelves, you start to get 2-line race and the bottom comes back in, and track that has a lot of evolving. I think guys that don't do too well or that are kind of mid-pack will find themselves searching for a lot of lines. So I think it'll be quite interesting in the midfield and even towards up the front even.
Well, we look forward to seeing it. And again, congratulations on win number 6.
Yep, thank you guys.
As Brandon Proudfoot taking another win here today in the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stock Series. But it looks like we've got second place finisher J.R. Shepard ready to talk to DJ Clark.
JR, that seemed like you had your hands full that entire race all the way through it. How was it out there?
Yeah, it was definitely slick out there, but yeah, not a bad run. I've not ran many races on this track, so still trying to learn it, and had a lot of luck tonight, just being in the right restart lane when it counted.
How important was lane choice? Because it looked like that high line was the way to go, but we saw you as well as some other guys really experiment and throw on the sliders or maybe trying to go a little bit low.
Yeah, I was pretty much having to run a slider line just to get any kind of speed out of my car. But lane choice was really just dependent on the driver and his driving style. A lot of guys were able to use the top and make it work real effective, and some guys were able to use that bottom. And I preferred using the bottom. It's real slick. Had to make sure you kept the right rear underneath you. But yeah, it worked out tonight, and not too bad, I guess.
Well, we spent a lot of the broadcast talking about the battle and the championship between you and Chris Davis. We're starting to close in on the final legs of this. We head to Volusia next week. Just heard Brandon sort of compare Volusia to Cedar Lake here. How do you like your chances there, and how do you like your chances for the rest of the season?
I definitely like racing at Volusia. You know, I think like Brandon said, you can get multiple lines kind of going, and you know, it just depends on your driving style. So I think it can play in my hand a little bit, but we'll go there and see how it works out. And yeah, I mean, I'm having a pretty decent season, but still a long way to go, and anything can happen here.
I couldn't agree more. JR, thank you so much, and congratulations again on a well-deserved second.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
That was your second place finisher, JR Shepard, and now Joe Peak is caught up with our third place finisher, Billy Northcutt.
Indeed, Billy, we saw a lot of cautions out there today, but they seem to be kind of a mixed blessing because, it prevented anybody from making overtakes while you're pacing, but sure seemed to open up passing opportunities once it did go back to green.
Yeah, man, it felt like each one of them cautions early on, it felt like I was losing a spot. I was in like fourth, and then the next caution I fell to fifth, and the next one I was in sixth. Just kind of the way that we were side by side in all of them, but I didn't stress about it too much. I was just trying to have a nice clean race. I've been doing really well in this league, but not finishing the races. Like I've been up towards the front in the top 5, second, running really well, and then I'll have something happen, a mistake, or drive off the track at Lernerville. And so I was just focused on finishing the race up there towards the front somewhere.
I'd say a third place is pretty far towards the front, especially in a 16-car field. I mean, like you said, it's not been the best results so far this season, but you've been among those who've been close to beating Brandon Proudfoot on the track at times. In the remaining rounds, are there any that look strong that you could maybe try and finally grab a victory this season?
Oh, I mean, I feel pretty confident at every track. I mean, some I'm better than others, but I mean, these last 3 tracks, we got Volusia, Lima Land, and Charlotte. I've been running really well at Charlotte lately. I was running top 3 in a couple of really major leagues this last week, and I feel really confident there, but that doesn't mean anything when you've got Bobby and Brandon and Steven out there. I mean, they're going to be just as confident, and it's going to be a heck of a race, that season finale. I think that'll be really fun. But beating those guys, you have to pretty much run about a perfect race, and I haven't done that yet. So they've earned all of those wins, and I haven't.
That's a fair way of seeing things. And finally, this is the newest dirt track here on iRacing. What are your thoughts now that you've raced it here with Bootleg?
This racetrack is the best track on the game for racing. You see a lot more side-by-side action. I mean, it's weird when you're racing because a lot of these tracks you end up single file and then you wait for an opening. But on this track, it's almost, you in your head, you start to think it's frustrating because you can't just do whatever you want because there's always somebody beside you, but then you remember that that's awesome. So it's really a lot of fun, and you have to be really paying attention the whole race at this track.
Well, I'd say you paid pretty good attention then, managing to get onto the podium. Congratulations, and hopefully we'll talk to you in Volusia.
Hey, thanks, man. You guys really do a heck of a job on these broadcasts. My family, we all think that you're the best ones to do it, and I really appreciate you guys doing it for this league this season.
We can't thank you enough for the kind words. That was Billy Northcutt, third place here in the feature race today. And we need to close up, unfortunately. So we want to thank the Bootleg Racing League for bringing us back for another season of coverage for their Dirt Street Stock series. But we also want to take the chance to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that we've listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. There's also our social media sites, including Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store. It's simply gsrc.storenv.com. We got a link in the description below, so it's nice and easy to find. And don't forget to head on over to our YouTube page while you're down there and hit that big red subscribe button so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As we mentioned, it's off down to Florida to Volusia. That'll be Friday, February 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Well, we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar, including in just a few minutes' time, we have the Sim Live, Racers for Mental Health Daytona 500 at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.